Welcome into Phil's Tax Hacks and Other Retirement Facts with CPA and personal financial specialist, Phil Putney. Now let's get rolling with today's show. Hey everybody, welcome to the podcast. This is Phil's Tax Hacks and Other Retirement Facts, and we're talking with a grandfather of many, Phil. So this is an interesting question that a lot of grandparents wind up either wanting to do, getting sucked into doing, or don't want to do, but still have to figure out how to help a little bit.
Right.
When it comes to, do you help offset the out of control costs of daycare for your kids, for their grandkids, right?
Yes.
And we had an email question came in about this as well, so we'll talk about that. Did you guys face this in your journey, you and the missus?
Yeah, it was always kind of the plan. So my wife actually wanted to retire, planned to retire from her career as a teacher.
Okay.
Once our kids started having grandkids, so she could watch them.
Okay.
So that's what she's done. She's done that now for 10 years, as our oldest grandchild. So grandson.
But that was the plan.
So, yeah. But it was a plan, right?
Right.
So, and again, it's one of the spouses, she was not the higher earning of the spouses. I mean, it all worked out fine.
We've got a question here, right? So,
sure.
So let's talk about that. So, my daughter had twins, and the cost for putting two babies in daycare would be astronomical. I'm sure it would be right at this time.
Yeah.
I'm 64 years old, plan to work for 3 more years, but Phil, I'm considering retiring so that I can provide childcare for her. Would it be foolish to retire before my FRA for Social Security, which we just talked about on last week's show, right?
Yep.
So I'm glad that this person is thinking these extra pieces through here.
Yes.
Let's talk about some components to this, right? It's a big emotional crossroads. How do you start weighing that, Phil, when you're in a situation like this person?
Yeah. So there's a lot of unknowns yet in this person's scenario. So I don't know if they're single, is this a single individual that she's the only one? She's maybe divorced or surviving spouse, so, I mean, that could dramatically change the plan, for her scenario. So really you've got to run the math to see what it looks like. And I know it's a hard emotional decision. You want to help the grandkids or your kids, but at the end of the day, you have to look at kind of the long-term effect of your scenario too. And is this feasible? So a lot of things to consider when you get
with the
into
math
this,
of that, right? So we were just doing that Social Security conversation last week. If you pull the trigger at 64, because we were talking about all the different claiming options.
Correct.
Is there a ballpark of how much of a cut you're taking 3 years short versus like the 5?
Yeah. So if you look at full retirement being, let's say 67, early as 62. So at 62, when you're full retirement 67, you're going to get 70% of the benefits. So you lose 30%. So it's about 6% a year on average, so if you think of it that way, filing 3 years early where you're going to lose about 18%, so and that would be, I guess, my question in this scenario. So it almost sounds like maybe it is that scenario of a single spouse, where if she is retiring and having to file for Social Security, I mean, that's a big decision because you're locking in permanently a pretty substantial loss of income for the rest of your life to help your kids for a short period of time. And I understand it's maybe a desire and something you really want to do and it would help them out. But and then again, I don't know the full scenario, but if it does dramatically change the rest of your retirement, are you willing to then change your lifestyle for the rest of your life?
That's a great point. Yeah.
Because you're making decisions today based on that can't be changed.
Is it worthwhile to talk to the kids, your kids, the mom and dad of the grandkids, and say, hey, what can what can you afford? What can you do? Not necessarily that you want to ask them for financial assistance, but I mean, it may be worthwhile to avoid conflicts to say, hey, why don't you guys pay me a small fee, smaller than it would be to go to daycare, something you can afford, because I am giving up, like for the next 30 years, right? Versus something that you're only going to need me for 5,
right? No, I mean, if this was this, and I'm assuming it's the grandma, the female of the partnership that's doing this, and there's a marriage still. In that scenario, maybe it's a totally different scenario and it works.
Yeah.
where, if she is the lower earning spouse, and the job she was giving up isn't a substantial portion of their current income.
Yeah. Maybe that 18%.
The other spouse
overtime
is going to continue to work. I mean, there's all these other factors that play in. Then maybe that works.
Yeah.
So there's in this scenario, there's a lot of things that have to play out to understand. Again, it comes down to running the math, right? Have the full facts in the scenario to start looking at options. One would be, so let's say if it is a single individual, okay, so retirement and filing for Social Security don't have to be the same thing. You can retire and not file for Social Security. So can you retire from your career, and, you talked about what can the kids afford? So yeah, they can't afford maybe daycare for the two twins, but what can they afford? Can they pay you something? And can you get a part-time job to make things work? What does that look like to delay Social Security possibly?
Look for some middle ground.
Yeah, so something kind of in the middle. It doesn't have to be all one way or another, black and white. I mean, there's some gray in the middle of how you make this work to maybe help accomplish the goals that you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Versus the long-term effect that you would have on your retirement. So that's my concern in this is you're making decisions today that are going to affect you for, at 64, the next 20 years at least, maybe 25.
Financially, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, that's a substantial change.
Let's circle back around to the emotional component for a second, Phil. My friend of mine, only in their late 40s became grandparents. And quickly it was, constantly having the grandkids dropped off to help. Hey, I've got to go to work. We can't get anybody. And they realized over a number of months that it was like, okay, this is becoming a crutch for my kids. They're now dropping the kids off all the time, and another friend, just using another example, another friend who is not retired yet, but, was like, thought about moving back to be closer to kids and grandkids, but doesn't want to be full-time grandma, right? And knows that temptation emotionally will be there. Right. And also for the kids to go, well, can't you just watch? Can't you just take them? So you've got to factor that in too. Like, do you want to open that gate, for this listener or anybody else to know that, it's going to happen. They're going to try to look, your own children. If they're going to try to take advantage of the situation, are you prepared for that? Mentally.
Yeah. And then, I don't know this grandma's desire, if this is what she's always wanted to do, is she willing to give up all these other potentials from a long-term standpoint?
I think most grandmas and grandpas would probably, or at least most grandmas would probably say, yeah, I'd love to do it. But you got to be honest. Like, do you want to do it for how long? Right.
Right. And that's really, to me, the thing with this is, decisions are made emotionally. We've talked about that many times. I mean, that's who we are.
Yeah, heat of the moment.
We are an emotional being, and that's how decisions are made. But at the end of the day, you don't want to make this emotional decision and 5 years down the road, look back and say, oh man, I shouldn't have done that. Because now it's too late, right? I mean, you can't go back and change Social Security.
Yeah, no, for sure.
You've done what you've done. You probably can't get back into the workforce because now you're almost 70.
I mean, age discrimination is not supposed to. It's not supposed to exist, but it does.
It does. Yeah. I mean, just talk to anyone that's trying to get back into the workforce that's been, right sized out or whatever it is. I mean, it's there. So,
boy, she's in a tough pickle, man. Because twins are tough, right? I mean, that's a hefty burden financially for the parents because it's not cheap. Daycare. I mean, 27 years ago, daycare was brutal for the wife and I, let alone, I can't imagine what it is now. And for twins and for little ones to, like really little ones. Right. So it's a tough spot to be in.
Well, my son and his wife are just going through this right now. In fact, she decided to stay home and several reasons, but I mean, this was one of them is that they also have a 2-year-old, plus they just had twins. So that would be 3 in daycare. And by the time you start adding up the math and then just trying to find daycare is another thing, because the daycare center that they were using for the 2-year-old, they couldn't get the twins in now, so I mean, it it was becoming difficult and was going to be costly when they started really looking at the numbers. So kind of back to this family scenario, maybe it makes sense for one of the spouses to stay home. I don't know their career type scenario either, because maybe they go part-time, for a period of time to be able to, not have full-time daycare. I mean, there's a lot of things. To me, it shouldn't be black or white. Retire, just watch the grandkids alone. I mean, if it works financially and you're comfortable with that decision, then do it. But I mean, if it isn't going to work and it's sounding, based on what we're hearing, maybe like it won't, then you got to be open to looking at some options and compromise on both sides.
The Tax Smart Retiree is your comprehensive guide to mastering tax efficiency for a flourishing retirement. You will find indispensable advice and actionable strategies designed to enhance tax savings, maximize Social Security benefits, protect against market volatility, and develop a customized retirement plan. To get your free ebook, click the link in the show notes of today's episode and download your copy of The Tax Smart Retiree right now.
It's the end of the year, Phil. It's this is our last episode for the year. It's the holiday season. I mean,
yep.
Like it's easy to get wrapped. I mean, and she doesn't say, to your point, she doesn't say if she's married. She doesn't say if the daughter's married. She
right.
could be they both could be single moms.
Yeah, we don't know.
I mean,
so
there's so many factors, and emotions run really high, especially around the holidays, right?
Sure.
And you're just like, you know what? I'm going to jump in. I'm going to help her, right? Just think it through, run some math, get some numbers put together, but really think about that emotional component, that mental component too, right? Because you don't want to strain relationships either. So it's a lot. It's a big burden. I mean, it's life, right? We do what we got to do to move forward.
Sure.
But just think about all the different options that might be out there. Try to isolate some things, and then that way maybe you give yourself the best chance moving forward at hopefully the best outcome. You never know until you do it, but
Right. Yeah, and that, to me, that's the whole key in this is anytime you're facing an emotionally charged decision like this. I mean, step back.
Yeah.
Don't make a quick decision for sure, because it's in the long run probably not going to be the right one. So step back, work through the numbers. Have the facts behind it. Have that discussion with the daughter or son or whoever the relationship is, the kids. So they understand too, hey, this is what it's costing me, because they don't know your scenario.
Bill, you saw me have a light bulb moment. I just thought about it. She's 64. Another whole financial consideration is if she is a single, grandmother, what is she doing for medical? She's got a year before she can hit 65, right?
Yep. I was thinking about that too. I mean, that's another, could be substantial cost.
Substantial loss, yeah.
She would have for a year to bridge until Medicare. So, I mean,
she'd have to pay Cobra.
A lot of pieces that that you have to look at to truly understand this. So,
well, our job is to provide, hey, think these things through a little bit. So I'm glad, our job is to kind of throw out these nuggets to ponder. So yeah, if she is single and you don't have a medical option, that's a year on Cobra. What is that doing to your financial situation? Or are you just planning on doing nothing, which is super dangerous, right? So,
right.
I mean, yeah, that's a huge hurdle too. So, I feel for you. You've really got some homework to do. And, Phil, can a financial advisor help in this situation by the grandmother, by breaking it all down?
Yeah. I mean, and that's the key, is that as a financial advisor, we can run the math, right? I mean, this is what we do, is we run the math and the scenarios behind this and can help lay it out unemotionally, because it's not our scenario. Understanding it is emotional for you, and we're not trying to take that away, but it's, at the end of the day, you need to know truly from a long-term effect what the ramifications of the decisions you're making today are going to be. And at the end of it, as long as you know that, and if you're still comfortable doing it and it works, then do it. You've now made a decision that's informed based on all the facts. And with that, hopefully you don't have regrets, because that's my biggest goal in any of this, is I don't want clients to have regrets, 5-10 years down the road, looking back saying, oh, I wish I would have. Why didn't you tell me? Type of scenario, right? I mean, because that's our job as an advisor, is we work with these scenarios every day. We look at retirement every day and know the factors to consider, so we can kind of give you a glimpse into the future of what this looks like. so that you can now avoid, hopefully, those, oh no, I didn't know, or regrets in the future that can't be changed. So,
now, you made a great point earlier. Daycare costs a few years, retirement could be 30. Build a plan that supports both generations,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So that you can, come out hopefully ahead in all those scenarios. So with that, Phil, happy holidays, Merry Christmas
You as well.
to you and our listeners and everybody out there. So we'll be off in the week between the new year. We'll be back in the new year for some more content. So as always, subscribe to us on Apple, Spotify, and of course, YouTube. If you need help with financial situations, do not hesitate to reach out to a financial professional. Even if you can't get on the calendar, in the holiday weeks, take the action for yourself to let someone know, hey, I need some help. Get some time on someone's calendar. And of course, Phil is here to help. He and the team, he and Brandon and the whole team. So just click on the links below, get yourself some time on the calendar, reach out to him and have a conversation for yourself about your life and your financial and retirement journeys, because it's coming for all of us, God willing. And with that, we'll see you next time. Happy holidays. Subscribe to us on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, and we'll see you in the new year on Phil's Tax Hacks and other retirement facts.
Investment advisory services offered through AFS Wealth Management. The content of this program is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. Investments and/or investment strategies involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. There is no assurance that any investment strategy will achieve its objectives.